I watched some of the most popular esports of 2025 and ranked them in a tier list by how good they are to watch. The way I'm ranking these games is by two things: presentation, which is everything from trailers to entrances to building storylines, crowd work to casters, and the gameplay, which is just gameplay. And with all that being said, let's go to our first game. Rainbow Six Siege, the 6th Invitational of 2025, which I believe they hosted in Boston. Overall, I was surprised that this is actually the lowest peak viewership out of every game on this list. Not by a lot, but still, it's weird to see, because the game actually doesn't deserve that low of viewership. The reason being, the presentation is actually good. They had a sick opening with orchestras playing, and everything was built in that opera vibe, so casters actually wore tuxedos. Everything was like gold and stuff. It was actually pretty nice to see. The crowd was hyped to see this match. By the way, for every game that I watched, I only watched grand finals. The reason being, I just wanted to do this as quick as possible, and I think grand finals are what actually matters in esport. But hey, the one thing I found interesting about casters, they could actually cuss, which was surprising. Really nice to see in this day and age. So all in all, the gameplay was actually fun, although FaZe kinda won 3-1 or 2-1, I'm not sure. It's very simple, so even if you don't play Rainbow Six, you would figure out what's happening in like one game. So it wasn't really as confusing as it could be. The presentation was actually done in such a way that I really like. And after every event, they make like a short movie, like a 40-minute movie about what happened on the event. It's very sick. So production quality and the presentation of the whole event was actually pretty nice. So with all that being said, I'm giving this game an A tier. In 2026, if you want to watch it, I highly recommend it, even if you don't play the game. Next game. Apex Legends. Oh god. The event we're talking about is the ALGS 2025 Championship. That was a mouthful. It was hosted in Japan, I think, because I saw a lot of flags and I really was confused on where they were, but I think it's Japan. Opening wise, it was not as strong as opening as something like Rainbow Six, but they had dancers and in traditional uniforms and stuff. It was cool to see. But I couldn't get around the fact that there was like one camera angle that just blatantly showed a dude on his phone. You could like watch what he was texting. and at one point, I think you can even unlock his phone because he shows you the password. And they never switched the POV. Apart from that, the presentation was kind of nice. There was some storytelling. This was the first time Apex Legends was the first game that I was introduced into the competitive side of battle royales, and I didn't like it, like, at all. The system is so goddamn confusing. First of all, I already told you that I only watched the grand finals of every game. The battle royale grand finals are actually just regular season games, and they're playing it for long enough so it kind of becomes grand finals. It's always 20 teams playing against each other. It's no eliminations, nothing. The point system that they had is very confusing to me. I don't know if they played a certain number of maps or they just rotated maps enough until somebody got enough points to win. And I thought the threshold was 500 points and first to get to 500 wins, but that's not actually the case. Some teams won with 540 something points. So that system I really don't like, and unfortunately it's the same system that other battle royale games have as well, so I don't think that's ever gonna change. But gameplay wise, oh boy, Apex Legends has to be the worst experience I've ever come across, apart from one game. The gameplay side can only be described in 3 words: shields, shields, and shields. There was a point, every POV of a player just shooting shields for 20 minutes at a time until somebody gets one kill and then the other 2 dudes just run away. There's so many goddamn shields in this game. I don't know if that's meta or whatever it is. I really didn't like it, and I thought it was extremely boring to watch, and I think the crowd actually thought that as well, but I don't kind of blame them. I didn't mention the length of these games. Like every single game was like 20 to almost an hour long, and the grand final was actually on multiple days. So every event was like 5 to 6 hours long of straight up gameplay. It was insane and extremely boring to watch and very long. That was the first game I actually watched on 4 times speed just to get through it. I didn't even care who won. I do not actually know who won. Wait, 1 second. Yeah, I didn't even write down in my notes who won. So there was also one thing that they showed, like the map view, for way too long. Like for 10 minutes straight, you're just watching the map and the little arrows moving across the map, and that's supposed to be interesting. All that being said, Apex Legends gets a C tier. Next game. Rocket League. The event we're talking about is the RLCS 2025 Championship. I didn't realize Rocket League had such a cult following. In the arena in Lyon were actually full. It was very nice to see, but I didn't know what was the attraction. I didn't think Rocket League could be that fun. Oh boy, was I surprised. The crowd is basically a football crowd. Yes, European football means football, actually, not. It's soccer, if you don't know what football is. There was not a lot of pauses between games. Like, as soon as the first game finished, they were already back in and playing the second one. It was actually interesting, and it kept your attention. It was kind of a shorter grand final than other games, but to be honest, that's not actually at all a bad thing. I think other games that I'm gonna mention are too long for no reason at all. I would actually suggest this for people that have kids and you kind of want to get them into esports. This is probably the best game I could suggest for that, just because there's no violence in this game, so you can actually watch it with your little kid, and it's actually fun to watch for you as well. So yeah, with all that being said, Rocket League is the first S tier game that I'm gonna suggest. Next game. PUBG. The event we're talking about is the PUBG Global Series of 2025. Oh god. Combining everything that I watched just of PUBG, the grand finals alone lasted for 18 plus hours. I'm talking about the grand final alone. It was split into 3 days, 5 plus hours each. It's insane. Why do these events last so goddamn long? I think they actually paid the crowds to be there. Watching this event felt like a fucking full-time job. Just being there for that long, it was insane. Presentation wise, I actually loved the cinematics that they had. I thought they were pretty cool. A car brand, Porsche, was actually a sponsor for that event, so whoever was the MVP of the winning team would actually get a Porsche as a gift, which I thought was pretty cool. But those are the probably only things I found cool and good in this event. Where Apex Legends had a problem with shields, PUBG has a problem with downtime. You can basically miss 90% of the match on any map and you would actually not see a kill. It's insane how slow they get into the action, and that's probably the thing that pulls me out of it. Just because if Apex Legends was a shield simulator, this game is a vehicle simulator, because the maps are so incredibly large. The only way to get from point A to point B is by some kind of vehicle. Would it be a car, a tank? I don't care. That's the only way. And you just see players drive for like 30 minutes straight before the circle gets even relatively small enough so there could be some gunfights. One more thing, same thing with Apex Legends. They have the same confusing system. They play God knows how many maps until one team reaches some amount of points. So with all that being said, the presentation being actually pretty good, but the gameplay side being fucking boring. That was the second esport I watched on 4 times speed just to get through it. I had 18 plus hours of footage just to get through, and I couldn't give a shit about it. You can see on the last map, another team getting the chicken dinner, winning the whole thing, and it didn't really matter. They were like mad about it, and you could see the team that came in like 5th or 6th actually celebrating, throwing shirts around and everything, because they were actually the ones that got enough points, so they didn't really care about the last match. So it's just those little things and the runtime of the event itself that were like, there is no reason to watch this. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to say about PUBG is Apex Legends and PUBG have the same problem of action, of downtime, because nothing is happening for 20 minutes. And the reason being that I see is that weird and awful system that they have where teams actually draft where they want to spawn on the map. And then they don't actually jump out of a plane and pick where they want to land. They actually pick it before the game starts, and they just start on ground, which I think is very stupid. Just because it doesn't give players an incentive to fight. I think anyone that doesn't play the game really shouldn't get into this, because you're just gonna spend a lot of time being confused or being bored or both. So with all that being said, PUBG will get a C tier as well. Fortnite. We're closing the trilogy of Battle Royale esports with Fortnite. And I think actually this is the way I wanted to go with it, because Fortnite is by far the best Battle Royale out of all of these that I mentioned, because it does a lot of things right. Presentation wise, I really liked it. They actually had some storylines being told. The animated trailers were actually amazing. In the arena, they had a big jumbotron and they had all the players in, and when the match started, they actually showed every single team pop up one by one and then get into action. That's actually pretty cool. The crowd itself was very good. I don't know why all of these events in 2025 were like in France, but this is like the second event. It was Rocket League in Lyon, and now it's Fortnite in Paris. They had interviews after every match. I would say unnecessary, because some teams that won were not even in a contention of winning the whole event. It was kind of pointless to interview them, because they were like, yeah, we're just here to have fun at the end of the day, because they knew they couldn't reach the top 3. Two things that I hated about Fortnite gameplay wise, and that is, first, the names of the teams. They don't have teams like in other games where they are like Team Falcons, Team FaZe and stuff like that. No. 3 players, individuals with their own teams, and they actually group up and play against other teams. That means that you can see a guy with a FaZe shirt, a guy with a Team Envy shirt, and a guy with a Team Liquid shirt playing together against another guy with a FaZe shirt and a Liquid shirt. It's pretty confusing. I thought casters, when team fights were happening, had to talk in super speed, because the only way to say what one of these teams was doing was to name each player in that team and then say what was happening. The other thing that I didn't like about gameplay is it kind of became a building simulator towards the end. When the circle is very small, they kind of start building skyscrapers, and who wins. But I kind of get it. It's Fortnite. It's like the main thing about Fortnite is building on the fly. What I did like was they didn't make a mistake like Apex Legends and PUBG did, where teams chose where they want to spawn. No, this was the first and the only, I think, Battle Royale game that has Battle Bus, where you jump out of it and the whole team chooses where they want to go. So you have actually those scenarios where 3 teams fly into the same spot and they start battling each other immediately. At the end of the day, I would give Fortnite a solid A. Next game. Dota 2, the Invitational 2025. This is gonna be the first controversial opinion of the video, I believe. Dota 2 is third game with the highest viewership on this whole list, with, I believe, the peak viewership of 1.7 million people. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out why. The only thing I wrote in my notes, this is why I'm not even looking at my notes. The only thing I wrote in my notes is Jesus Christ. Let's get into it. Okay, presentation wise, there is no presentation. There were just interviews with players and a dude wearing a dress and like a wig. I think he wore it unironically. It didn't look like it was a joke. I'm talking about the casters. No cinematics. There was no storylines being told. No epic entrances of teams. There was basically nothing there. It was just casters talking about what happened on the whole event for like 40 minutes and then just teams walking in and playing the game. It was as generic as an event could get. The energy in that entire arena was the lowest I've ever seen. I think even PUBG crowd and casters that were there for 3 days, 6 hours were more alive than this crowd of Dota. For some reason, they were not hyped at all about this event, and I cannot blame them because I wasn't as well, because nobody actually tried to hype it up. I think Dota suffers from its belief that people that make Dota 2 events actually believe that the only people that watch Dota 2 are the people that play Dota 2, which I kind of understand that that's probably the case, but there is zero incentive for people who don't play Dota 2 to actually watch Dota 2. If you basically do not understand anything about Dota 2, you will not understand anything watching this event. Nothing will be clearer to you. Nothing was clear to me as well. The casters and the crowd had zero energy. It was like they watched a live unaliving in the middle of that stage before the camera started rolling. If you play Dota and watch this, sure, why not? But if you don't, I do not suggest it at all. Even if you play Dota, I think you should watch something else. Like, that's how bad it was, for me at least. So with all that being said, I'm giving Dota 2 a D tier. Next game. League of Legends Worlds 2025, KT vs T1, apparently called the Telecom Wars, which I didn't really know what it was about, but League of Legends and Riot in particular, they actually know how to present their esports, even if you don't play the game or don't know the history, because they say everything. They make cool cinematics, cool storylines. By the end of the stream, I knew what Telecom Wars were. That's how good and informational the presentation of League of Legends is. As far as the opening of the game, I felt like I was at a concert, which is kind of a theme for Riot Games. It's pretty cool. I don't know what else I can say about it. I think the songs that were performed were actually kind of league-based, with the good, the bad, and I don't know, the entertaining. The performances were actually incorporated with the entrance of the players, which I thought was pretty cool. One thing I thought it was pretty weird was the actual stage size. Like, it was huge. It was so big that you couldn't actually, from some angles, you couldn't even see the crowd. All you see is stage and the players. That's how big it is. Pause. Presentation wise, it's top of the top. Like, you cannot get a better presentation out of any game. The crowd was insane as well. I mean, it's League of Legends. League of Legends is the OG of esports, and it's so big that you can combine the number 5, number 4, number 3, and number 2 of the other esports peak viewership, and you still won't get the peak viewership of League of Legends Worlds alone. It's almost at 7 million peak viewership. It's insane. If you don't play League of Legends, you could still actually watch the game and kind of understand what is going on gameplay wise. Although it's still League of Legends is still confusing, and I couldn't tell you what was going on in team fights. I could somehow, some way understand what was going on because the casters were insanely good at explaining what was going on. I think League of Legends has such a big viewership just because everything they do presentation wise and what casters are doing is making even casual players of the game and casual viewership who maybe don't even play the game and just want to watch it, make them understand more about what's going on in the game. So for that, I will give League of Legends an A tier. Valorant Championship 2025. This is gonna be a bit of a biased opinion just because I actually watch VCT. I am actually a fan of Valorant, and I play Valorant, so yeah. Presentation-wise, it's Riot. The same thing that they did with League of Legends, they actually did with Valorant. Performances and stuff like that, but the thing that they did differently with these performances is they actually incorporated the game cinematics into a live performance. I really like that shit. I just realized that 3 of the 9 games I talked about happened in France. Dude, French people were eating good. The games that were played were insane. I am so glad NRG won because I cannot stand that boaster guy dancing alone without anybody behind him. It just looks so cringe and awkward every time he does it. I am so glad he lost. Even though I'm not a fan of NRG and I don't think anybody expected NRG to actually pull this off because they were like the underdogs for the whole year. But I'm actually very glad that NRG did, even though I'm a Paper X fan. Gameplay wise, sometimes there are some particular cases where a person that doesn't play Valorant would not understand what was going on. Those situations are few and far between. Even if you don't play Valorant, it's pretty simple to understand. It's basically a point and click adventure. You shoot a guy in front of you, he dies, you win. And sometimes you plant the bomb. It's really easy to understand. So the only small issue I have is the utility spam. Other than that, I think Valorant actually did a pretty good job with their pro scene. Yeah, I'm gonna keep watching it. With all that being said, Valorant is S tier. Next game. The next and the last game of this video is CS2, Counter-Strike 2, Blast TV Austin Major of 2025. Alright, I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. They did so many things right. They killed it. The game was between Mongols and Vitality. I was kind of rooting for Mongols just because I like the underdog story of Mongols, but what I found interesting about Counter-Strike Esports is they sometimes have celebrity games, so streamers who stream Counter-Strike and stuff like that, or ex-pros play the game before the actual finals start. And I think that's actually pretty cool, and I actually enjoyed watching it. For presentation-wise, they absolutely killed it. It's so cool. The one thing I liked so much about the presentation of Blast TV Austin Major is when the players were entering, they played the interviews of those players on the screen above them, telling you the story about the rivalry they have or their inspirations or what they're thankful for, which gives you some kind of a storyline before the match even starts. As far as the gameplay side, it's the same to understand as Valorant. It's point and click adventure, shoot a guy, he died, and sometimes plant the bomb. It's basically that simple. I think it's even simpler to understand than Valorant just because a smoke bomb actually looks like a real smoke bomb. Molotov looks the same. The bombs looks the same. Everything looks the same. It's not like cartoony like Valorant is. So yeah, I think it's even more understandable. Vitality 1, I would say it was close, but not really. I was impressed by it. I really liked it. So I'm putting CS2 in S tier. Yeah, I know there is no B tier on this list. Either it's shit or it's great. This is my full tier list. These S tier games and A tier games is what I actually suggest for you to watch out for in 2026. Comment down below if you disagree with my tier list. Tell me why you think it's different. Tell me what I missed. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.